Hey folks, and welcome to our What's New in IntelliJ IDEA 2025.3 update. We've got a ton of updates for you, from new features, from new framework support, fixes, almost too much to show you in a single video. We're trying our best, so let's jump right in. And to help me, I brought my dear colleagues with me. Hello, Marit. Hello, Anton. And hello, Siva.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Right, then let's jump right in. And I want to start off with what I call foundational changes, unified distribution, because it's something we talked already about in the last What's New stream. We are making changes on how you are going to download IntelliJ IDEA. There's not going to be a community edition and ultimate edition anymore. Marit, please run us through what has changed and what people can expect.
Yes. So it used to be that you install IntelliJ IDEA and immediately you have to choose whether you want to install Community or Ultimate. And we want to make that simpler. There's going to be one IntelliJ IDEA. And you can use that either with or without subscription features, aka Ultimate. So if you're using Ultimate, nothing will change. If you're using Community, it will also update to the unified distribution, but without the subscription features. And you can use a trial. So if you're on Community, you can activate that trial. If you get a new install, it will automatically start the trial already. And in the IntelliJ IDEA without subscription, we're also adding some additional free features, like the Spring Wizard, Spring Project Wizard. So you can start a Spring project from inside IntelliJ IDEA instead of going to start.spring.io. And then you can immediately start working with that project. Let me show you how. So in the Project Wizard, we can now open or start a Spring Boot project or a Ktor project. I'll go with a Spring Boot. So let's call that Spring Demo. It's connected to start.spring.io, so you get the same functionality, but inside your IDE instead of going to the internet. I'll create a Maven project with Java 25, which, as Josh says, is 4 times as good as Java 8. And we can add dependencies like Spring Web. We have Spring Boot 4, which was recently released in November. And then we can create our project, which will open in a new window, which is, if you're in full screen, the same window. What we've also fixed is that it should now correctly highlight all of your Spring code where it didn't before in some places in the Community Edition. So we're making it easier to work with Spring also in IntelliJ IDEA without subscription features. But of course, if you want proper Spring support that Siva will tell us more about later, then you might want to actually unlock Ultimate, which you can do here, and manage my subscription. I can activate my license. That does require a restart, so it will restart my IntelliJ IDEA and load all of the plugins that bring us Ultimate features. So not just Spring support and other framework support, but also full database support and web technology support. So, for example, we now have Spring support, but again, Siva will tell you more about Spring support later. So that's it for unified distribution. It should make it easier for everyone. If you do have a subscription, but your subscription expires, instead of having to download the Community Edition so you can continue working, you can continue working with the IntelliJ IDEA you already have and hopefully renew your subscription. Yeah.
Right, thank you. I love it, yeah. Less
Thanks.
Decisions to make, yeah?
Yes, if we can make less decisions, that can save us some decision fatigue, yes.
That's always good. Right, thank you. Then some of you might have noticed that IntelliJ IDEA already looks a bit different. Surprise, that's because we gave it a makeover and we treated IntelliJ IDEA a day at the spa, so to speak, which brings us to the island theme. Marit, again, could you please just briefly show us what that is?
Well, you've already seen it because it will be on by default. So the Islands theme is basically a facelift for your IDE. So it looks new and fresh, and basically one of the upsides is it more clearly delineates the different areas of your IDE, so your project tool window, your editor, any other tool windows that you might open. You can still move them around and whatever. There is, let me go to themes. There is a dark theme and a careful bright light theme. Ugh. The light attracts the bugs. Let's quickly go back to dark theme. I always do a poll when I'm speaking at conferences. Who likes dark theme? Who likes light theme? Most of you like dark theme, so, but there are always a few who prefer light.
And we're going to get these comments down below the video.
Yes.
I'm pretty
sure.
sure.
Fight below. What's your favorite? Let us know.
I'm the team light theme.
Are you
team light theme? How dare you?
How dare you? Anyway, it is sometimes better if you're presenting in a full room. So I used to be very firmly team dark theme. I'm mellowing in my old age, apparently, and now I also sometimes use light theme when I'm presenting. You can still use the old dark and light theme and the light theme with light header, which I think is your favorite, Anton,
Yes.
right? Or Darkula. And if that's not enough, you can always get more themes from the marketplace. There used to be a Barbie theme at some point, which I've actually seen Josh use at a conference, but I don't think it exists anymore, unfortunately. It was very pink. Surprise. So yeah, that's Islands theme. It will be on by default if you were using the default theme before. Give it a try. Let us know what you think.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking about islands, I feel like, sipping a coconut drink, lying in a hammock, and then maybe vibe coding a new startup in an alternative universe. By the way, is it alternate universe or alternative universe? Alternate universe, right. In that alternate universe, we talk about vibe coding and AI stuff because there's a ton of AI updates we're going to bring to you, starting with next edit suggestion, which is a very hard word to pronounce, Cloud Agent, updates to Juni, and Anton is going to run us through all these updates right now.
Right, AI, all the things. So next edit suggestion. We figured that it's a hard word to pronounce, actually, just before the stream. So hard. But I made it. Let's talk about what the new features like overall. So AI features are kind of disconnected from the main release cycle. They release whenever they are ready to ship faster. And next edit suggestion is not something that appeared just right now for the release. It has been there since September, maybe late August, but it's kind of new in a way if we look at the release cycles from the last time when we recorded. What is next edit suggestion? So first of all, it's enabled in the settings. If we go into the settings, tools, AI assistant, and there's the checkbox enable next edit suggestions. It's applicable to different languages and, just any text, markdown, YAML, whatever. And the normal suggestion, when like normal auto completions in our IDE, works in such a way that they appear at the cursor position, so where the cursor is. Next edit suggestion goes beyond that. It can track or predict that something needs to change on some other line or in the middle of the other line. So I have a silly example here. 3 fields, string A equals A, string B equals B, and so on. If I change, let's say, a value of A slightly, it suggests me to change for some reason only for string C, not for string B. We gotta fix that, but it works in such a way that it offers you to tap the tab key, jump to the next position, and update the value of whatever you have to change. So when I change the field B value, it suggests me to add string D with the value D1 or whatever, and so on. That's a silly example, but it just demonstrates that the next edit suggestion works for the other places than the cursor itself. But I have a real life project as well to demonstrate how this feature is applicable So I have submitted a patch to some open source project that deals with PDF documents, and they have a validation logic there. It's a web application, so you submit your PDF, and the application code validates the input, the parameters of the request. And so I submitted the PR, and I've got the PR reviewed, and the feedback was, oh, like it's nice, like it does what we need it to do, but we have some custom utilities to create or to throw the exceptions. And there I have like the ifs, like the method is full of if statements, and inside those blocks, if some parameter does not correspond to the desired values, we throw an illegal argument exception. And because the project, now I'm going to say a very complicated word, it uses internationalization.
Yes,
Yeah, I did
it.
it. That's the most complex word of all of them. So they have a special utility class, and then I need to change it to exception utils, and then use some other method. And when I was doing this, when I was changing and fixing my patch to that project, I noticed that actually next edit suggestion helps me in many ways to update my code. Let me, currently, I on my screen I can see how next edit suggestion helps me to understand what is going to change, so that it actually renders not just the inline completion for some value, but rather visualizes, like if I press the tab key, this is how it's going to change. Like this is a nice visualization, and another very complicated word, by the way. And I think people will like it. This feature is still like a work in progress, so it's in beta. We have a label there, and we want your feedback. But I like it even more than just the general inline suggestions, like the AI completions. And so I actually turned them off, and I'm just using the next edit suggestions now. So that's about this new feature. And the other new stuff that we have in the in AI Assistant is that we integrated Claude Agent. Yes, naming is hard.
Naming is hard.
Yeah,
Make sure to mention the right.
So people are confused sometimes by the naming, and we have to make it clear. There is a product that is called Claude Code. That is a separate product by Anthropic, and they provided Claude Agent SDK that the other vendors like JetBrains and the team at AI Assistant can use to integrate the agent logic into their products. But this is a different implementation of the agent. So it's not the same product. That's important to understand. And that is why it's called Claude Agent, because it uses this SDK, dedicated SDK. So
thank you for that elaboration, because the confusion is real, the potential confusion.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments about that. And yes, folks, Claude Agent is one thing. It's the CLI terminal-based agent, and Claude Agent inside AI Assistant is the agent that is built using this special SDK that is provided by Anthropic. So we have it integrated in the AI chat, and there is a selector that you can see in the AI chat. There's this old chat like that we have for 2 years now. There's Claude Agent that is in beta, and there is Junie as well. So Junie is being merged into the unified chat. So there will be just the AI Assistant chat. For some time, we will have Junie plugin, separate, dedicated Junie plugin as well. So I have it installed in my IDE as well. But things are moving into this unified chat, and the Claude agent was the first step. We released it, made it available in September, and now June is being added there as well. So what's cool about Claude agent is that it basically have all the features that Claude agent SDK provides out of the box, and therefore I have to open the documentation page that lists some of the surprising features that you get out of the box with that.
What's surprising?
For instance, slash commands. This is something that people would like to have supported, like in the agents. And like if you have your own agent, like Junie, in Junie we don't have slash commands yet. It's in the pipeline, but it's not there yet. But by integrating Claude Agent or implementing Claude Agent with Claude Agent SDK, we got it for free. So I'm just going to show how it works. In .claude directory in the project, there will be a subdirectory called commands, and there will be, let's say, if I want to create my custom command, I can create my dash command.md. So it's just an MD file, and I will, I don't know, write some kind of a command in a natural language. For instance, inspect my project and suggest improvements. Yeah, even completion works here. And then in the chat, I would do slash and the name of the file. So my dash command, and just run it. So essentially what will happen is that the agent will find that file. It will understand that it needs to run that command, take the prompt technically from that file, execute it, and the result will be ingested into the context, right? So currently my AI assistant chat is running that command as a prompt, and the result will be available for the follow-ups, so that I can start, doing something after this. This is a nice way to integrate some third-party tools into your AI workflow. For instance, SpecKit, a tool for spec-driven development, is something that integrates with slash commands with agents. So yeah, those are like the main things. Along with that, with the recent updates of AI inference vendors, let's call them like this, OpenAI and Google and whoever else, we've got some updates for the model. So if I switch to the chat mode, I have this model selector right there, and we have a bunch of new labels visible there. So Gemini 3 Pro was released just recently, GPT 5.1 and GPT 5.1 Codex Mini, and so on. Nice selection. Would be fun to find some time to actually play with that and experiment. Yeah, so those are the highlights. We have a bunch of other things ongoing. Because of the unified chat, we need to figure out how we merge the settings, how we merge the MCP settings, and so on. So this is a work in progress, and I expect a lot of nice updates there in the upcoming months.
Thank you very much for that overview. It indeed sounds like a lot of stuff that is happening, and we all would need the time actually to play with it properly.
Yep.
And that brings us to, unfortunately, back to the ground a bit, which is we need a Java section, because what would what's new in IntelliJ IDEA stream be without a Java section? We're going to have a look at Java 25 up to Java 26 and some stuff in between. Marit, show us, please, what has been going on there.
So we talked about Java 25 last time already. We had Java 25 support from day one in IntelliJ IDEA. It was released in September. We already had some features supporting Java 25 in 2025.2, and we've added more in minor releases. So if you're just coming to Java 25 now, one of the things that was added was compact source files. So you can create a compact source file and use simple IO to print hello world to the command line, hello world. And another thing that we have is you can now download all distributions from major vendors from IntelliJ IDEA. So you can download JDK, and here we have the full list of all major vendors that you can download, which I already have done, so I don't need to do that right now.
And by the way, I would be really interested in, for you folks out there, how do you usually manage your SDKs? What tools have you been using? Have you been trying out the management capabilities of IntelliJ IDEA for it? Have you been trying something else? Let us know, please, down in the comments below.
Yes, so I did want to show one other thing. So we can also read line with the simple IO. So what is your name? And then use that variable in our code. Instead of printing hello world, we can print the name that we got. Let's run that. My name is Marit. Hello, Marit. And we have some additional fixes as well for Java. One is quick fixes for typos. You have no idea how hard it is for me to do a typo on purpose. But let's say you write val instead of var, because, for example, you're coming from Kotlin. IntelliJ IDEA will actually suggest to fix the typo from val to var. So that's a nice small improvement as well. And one of the other things that is new is that Java support will actually be a plugin as of this release, meaning that we can bring you new features more quickly in between major releases of IntelliJ IDEA.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Then let's move from Java support to, let's say, IntelliJ Smarts or more IntelliJ Smarts. And one of the big things we have already teased last time is command completion. We're trying to give you one keyboard shortcut to rule them all. Marit, again, could you show us a quick demo?
Yes, of course. So command completion is really cool, in my opinion. You might be familiar with regular completion. If you have a variable, that is apparently also a hard word, Anton, you jinxed me. Thanks. So if you have a variable and you type a dot, you get completion. So as you can see, we have API completion, all of the methods we can call on a string. If we scroll all the way down, we have postfix completion, so kind of live templates that you can apply to that variable. And if we scroll down even more, now we have commands that we can use. And this will give us all of the relevant commands to the context where we currently are in our editor. So in this case, I want to remove this expression because I didn't actually want it. And let me show you basically some of the things that we can do with command completion. So I need a little bit of code. We will read some stuff from a file again. So now we see that we have some code that has errors and warnings. We can use command completion to fix errors and warnings. And we can do that in the place where we have our error. So we can see the commands like add exception to method signature. And if we want to filter down to the commands, we can use the ... that we showed you last time. So we can add exception to method signature. We can also fix warnings. So in this case, for example, replace with file name, like so. We can, like I just used postfix completion to create a variable, but now we also have command completion, introduce local variable to do so. We can read all the lines from the file and then for each create a new user, for example. Like so. We don't have the class user, so we can actually use command completion to create that class. Let's call this name. We can create variables. We can use it to generate code, like a toString method. We can use it to navigate to places. So we can go to declaration of string class, which of course is a read-only file. So currently I have another beta setting that we have for you. Let me show you in the settings, command completion. If you enable command completion for read-only files, then you can use it also in read-only files, for example, to navigate back from the string class to the usages. We can use it to basically fix our code as we are typing, do all kinds of things, do changes on our files, do refactorings, add Javadoc.
But without remembering all the shortcuts.
Without having to remember all of the shortcuts, or hopefully without getting the shortcut conflicts. Thank you, Mac, for showing up at just the right time. So, basically making it as easy as typing a dot or two. And it helps us
a dot or two.
A dot or two.
A dot or two. I think we really need a marketing campaign. Dot, a dot or two. Right.
Yes.
But the main takeaway is, again, as Anton just said, you don't have to remember any keyboard shortcuts anymore. Just press dot, dot. I'm going to say it again, dot, dot, and you will live happily ever after. Marit, just quickly, wasn't there something about Java 26 as well?
Yes, there is. Thanks for asking. So we saw that we have all of the major distributions for Java 25 that we can download from IntelliJ IDEA, but we can also already download early access for Java 26. IntelliJ will remind you not to use it for production. So we have the OpenJDK Java 26 early access version that we can download, as well as the Valhalla early access release that we can download, which I, again, have already done in a separate project. So we have Java 26 Valhalla, which brings us value classes. Very quickly, like if you have data that represents something that is immutable and basically interchangeable, like a local date that points to the same date, you can create currently multiple objects of that same date. And you would then create multiple objects on the heap of that same date that have an identity that are, so if you point to date 1 or date 2, they are not the same object. Value classes would change that, and local date will actually become a value class, meaning that if you have a local date of 17 March 2026, the release date for Java 26, and you have another object pointing to that same date, it would be the same object, so that if you compare them using equals equals, it would actually say true instead of where it now says false. So let's run that. And we can see that if we compare them, both dates point to the same date. If we compare them using an equals method, that returns true. But if we compare them with equals, that also results true. And it does not have an identity, as mentioned. So we have value class support already. I have a very basic example of a value class where we can see that both the keyword value is already recognized, and we have a simple warning here that value classes may only extend abstract value classes or Java lang objects. So if you're trying to do something that's not allowed, IntelliJ IDEA will already warn you for that. So if you want to, I also need some time to play with this. Speaking of time,
yes,
that we need to play with stuff.
We just need more time.
If someone can, kindly find me some more time to play with stuff, that would be great. Thank you.
But at the end of the day, if you want to live at the cutting edge, we are there already to support you. Now that we've talked about Java, let's talk about the most popular framework in the Java universe, which is Spring. Spring Framework 7 has just been released. Spring Boot 4 also has just been released. And Siva is going to show us what's new in the Spring universe and that we already support these goodies that are coming.
Well, Spring Framework 7 and Spring Boot 4 got released with a bunch of features like API versioning and HTTP service client support and also programmatic bean registration. And IntelliJ IDEA 2025.3 added support for all these features. Now, let's take a look at each of these features. And so far, we do not have any first-class support for versioning within the Spring framework itself. So people follow different ideologies like using some path variable or passing through the header. So different ways. Now, all these approaches are supported and it make as a first-class citizen within the framework itself. Now let's see how IntelliJ IDEA helps you to implement that. Okay, so here we have a Spring Boot 4 project, and in my controller, I have two such API endpoints, and I'm trying to use API versioning. Here I have version 1 and version 2. As you can see, here it is showing a warning that says API versioning is not configured. Now IntelliJ IDEA helps us to configure this API versioning by providing this quick fix. So if I click on this, it is going to automatically use the header-based API versioning support. As you can see, it automatically added this property. But of course, if you want to use a different strategy, you can configure those properties accordingly. Now, if you go back to the controller and command click the version number, it will take you to the place where API versioning is configured. And it is not the only approach you can configure the API versioning support. You can also go to Web MVC configurer, and you can configure through programmatic approach. And again, if you go to any controller and command click, it will take you through, to the place where it is configured. In this case, Web MVC configure. So that's a nice feature. And also when it comes to testing, here you can see I'm trying to make an API endpoint by specifying the API version. One approach is through passing a header, but if you follow any other approach like passing through the query parameter or through path variable, you can use this new API version method and specify what the version you want to use. But as you can see, it is showing a warning that says you haven't configured API version support for your mock MVC. And again, IntelliJ IDEA helps you to quickly fix it by providing this quick fix, which automatically create this mock MVC builder customizer where you can specify how you want to use it. Use it header or a path variable, whatever you want to use. So it simplifies the whole process of enabling the versioning for your Spring Boot application.
Nice. And by the way, let us know what your favorite way of versioning your API actually is. We would really love to know.
So now let's talk about the next feature, which is HTTP service client support. If you know and use HTTP client support before Spring Boot 4, you might be familiar with this boilerplate code you need to write for registering this bean type. But now you don't need to do all that. Simply delete this whole boilerplate code and simply use this import HTTP services. So that's it. All the magic happens behind the scenes, and also IntelliJ IDEA recognize that as a bean. As you can see, we are able to inject this and call the methods on it. So it is simplified quite a bit.
I love deleting code. I don't know about you.
Yes, I do enjoy deleting code.
Right?
So the next feature that is part of the Spring Framework 7 is programmatic bean registration. And actually, Spring already provides multiple ways of registering the bean programmatically using Java config at bean methods. And also there are a bunch of Spring Boots at conditional on approaches. But if you still need some complicated mechanism and it involves some complex logic, you can use this programmatic bean registration approach. In this case, I have a bunch of logic to determine how I want to instantiate, and then finally I register the bean using registry.registryBean. So once I have that, again, I can import that configuration class. Now I can inject that bean, IntelliJ recognize it. And if you click on this getter icon, it will actually take you to the place that is registered. In this case, we have this custom bean register. So it all works fine with IntelliJ IDEA.
Very cool. And since we're already deep in the Spring forest, so to speak, let's talk about Spring Data JDBC. Quick question beforehand. Do you prefer DB first approaches or model first approaches, meaning starting with the database first and then the Java classes, or the other way around? Any opinions?
I would prefer the application first, but in practice, you always have a database first.
I would say it depends, but
But what does it depend on, Siva?
it depends on, in my experience, many times it starts with a DB first, but once you have the initial version of the DB structure, as you go on implementing new use cases, you will start making the changes based on the use cases. You start adding new columns, you start adding new tables. So it doesn't strictly follow, I always create the tables first, or I always go with the application models first. It goes like switching between model first, DB first.
Yep.
That's my experience.
Yeah, I've absolutely done it the other way around, starting from the controller in the API and then working our way down and then adding the database. So,
And in any case, we're not here to judge your workflow choices. So you can use either way.
it's okay if people prefer different things, right?
It absolutely is. But Siva, walk us through what happened in the data JDBC world.
So we all know that IntelliJ already provides excellent support for Spring Data JPA, where you have all the reverse engineering capabilities and all. But now with IntelliJ 2025.3, we are bringing the same level of capabilities to support Spring Data JDBC as well. So here, let's take a look at few use cases. I mean, you ask, do we go for database first or model first, right? The good thing is we support both the approaches. Whichever you prefer, we have covered. So here, let's take a look at the DB first approach, where we have a database connection and we do not have any models created, but we have a flyway migration where we have a bunch of tables and it is already executed. Now I want to create the models based on this database structure. How do we do it? Of course, we don't want to do it manually. Let's go ahead and create JDBC entities from database. And here you can select what are all the tables you want to create the entities, and maybe you want to change some data types and all that. You can do it. And then just click OK. Here you can see all the entities got created, book, review, and everything. And also, Spring Data JDBC is heavily influenced by DDD approach. And as per the DDD approach, you shouldn't be having references to other aggregate roots. And that's why we have this aggregate references that points to another aggregate root. So we have all that generated according to these DDD principles. So now that we have seen the DB first approach, now let's go and see how model first approach looks like. Let's switch to model first. So this is the other use case where we have an empty database. We don't have any tables right now. And in our application, we have no flyway migrations, but we have JDBC entities. So like you said, if we start with models and then controllers and everything, now I want to use flyway for production. So how do we do that? Again, we don't want to write all these scripts by hand. Instead, what we can do, let's say, here I can click on this gutter icon. And because this is our first migration, click on this flyway init migration. And by default, I selected one entity, but you want to generate the migration for all the entities. So select project. And if you have multiple data sources, you can choose the right one and click OK. Here you can see it inspect the data models and then create a script, and you can give a meaningful name and also check, review the generated scripts and click save. So now it is generating this flyway migration. So no more manual writing SQLs. It automatically generates everything. Now that we have this flyway, let's start the application. And of course, Spring will automatically, let me build it. And now if you start the application, Spring will automatically apply these flyway migrations and it should create the database tables. Let's take a look at it. Yes, it created all the tables. So now with the model first, we proceed to create the flyway migrations, working fine. But as I said, it is not always this lane or this lane. We should just go and imagine now I want to create a new attribute in, let's say, book. For example, I want to create a new property called description. Okay. Now, how do I do that? Like I added this property in my entity, but also I need to create a new flyway migration. Again, I don't want to do it manually. Now, what can I do? So this is where, again, click on this scatter icon. This time, we are not initializing the migration because we already have one. So this time, click on this flyway migration and select, again, we have only one entity right now. Click OK. It is going to, again, inspect the current database structure and your models. And then based on the delta, it is generating the script. Now, let's say add column, something. Save. Now, again, if you rebuild and restart the application, it is going to create that new column also in the database. But then what is the other way around? Like we added a new flyway migration and then those columns got created in the database. Now I need to bring those new columns into my entity. Now what should I do? So let's take a look at that scenario as well. So I have a simple migration here.
Migration is also a hard word.
Yes.
Visualization.
Internationalization.
Internationalization.
Sorry.
So here I have added a third migration script, which is adding two new columns, publisher and deleted. Now, again, if I restart the application, these two columns are going to be added to this books table. Now I need to bring those two columns into my entity. Again, I don't want to do it manually. Now, what can I do? So here again, I go and select the same thing, create JDBC entity from database. And this time it is going to again check the database structure and my current model. And then it shows what are the columns already created. Let's refresh this. Okay. Yes, we have these two new columns as well. Now, if I go ahead and create entity attributes, here you can see those two new columns appear here. If I want to bring those two new columns, I can select both of them, but let's go with one thing, publisher, and click OK. Now here you can see publisher property is added along with setters and getters. But then what about the other deleted column? Here is another feature where if you have a database connection established and you are working in the entity, now you can start typing the column name. So here, if I type deleted, it is going to expand to the column, and then you see both the setters and getters created. So like that, there are a whole bunch of features where you do the reverse engineering. Like if you have DB first, you can generate the models, or if you have the models, you can generate the flyway or liquid-based migrations. And also, if you make any changes to the entities, you can generate the delta flyway or liquid-based migrations, or if you add the migrations, you can sync those changes into your entities. So
that's
you have everything.
Very, very nice and comfortable, to be honest.
You know what? I'm a little bit upset because I wrote those liquid-based scripts by hand. So I remember doing that by hand. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Siva.
Thank you. And while we're at the topic, I guess, of Spring Data, there is also AOT support for Spring Data repositories. Just for people who are not aware of what AOT support is, what is it all about?
So if we are using any Spring Data, like Spring Data JDBC or Spring Data JPA, we can use this repository methods finders, like find by ISBN, find by first name, or like that. But the implementation is going to be generated during the runtime, which you can't usually debug because it is generated in the runtime. So this AOT is going to do this ahead of time compilation and then generate an implementation class so that from your IDE, you can actually put a breakpoint and then debug through the code. So it is not magic. You can actually see the magic here.
Right. I don't have to step through layers and layers of proxies anymore to get to the right place.
Exactly. The last thing you want to do is getting into any AOP code debugging. Nobody likes that. So here, let's take a look at how we can do that. And IntelliJ supports that. Here in my pom.xml Spring Boot Maven plugin, I enable this AOT processing. And once I enable this, for Spring Data JDBC, we need a little bit more configuration like this, JDBC dialect. In my case, I'm using a Postgres database, so I configured that. But for Spring Data JPA, you don't need to configure this. It works fine. But for JDBC, you need this. And that's it. Now, the thing is, when you run the compilation through Maven plugin, it is going to generate the AOT repository implementations. But from IDE, you some way need to hook up that package or compile step. So that's what we are going to do now. So here I'm going to this edit configurations, and then I'm going to do two configurations. One is I'm going to add this add before launch task, and I'll choose run Maven goal, and I use package. So after that, I need to enable the AOT support here by adding this VM options. So I'm selecting this add VM options. And here I'm going to add this -d spring.aot.enabled equals to true. So with that, I enable the AOT functionality. Now I'm going to run the debug. So it is going to first build the application, and as part of this Maven package goal, it's going to generate this AOT implementations and then finally start the application. So here you can also check whether your AOT processing is working or not. In this console logs, you can see this starting AOT processed and whatever the application name you have. So that's an indication that AOT is working or not. And once you have this, if you go to a book repository, now here you can see the actual finders that we wrote, and also you can see the inlay where how it is going to be actually resolved to a query. This inlay information shows you what is the actual query that is going to be executed. Not only that, if you click on this implementation, go to implementation icon, you can actually come here and let's say in this find by ISBN, you can actually put a breakpoint, and let's take a look at, I'm going to make an API call, and here, now you can see the breakpoint here is stopped. You can debug through here, and you can check whatever the logic you want to check. So it is not magic anymore. You can see the actual implementation of it. You can step through that code. You can see how or what is going on behind the scenes.
All right, thank you. So now let's move from the Spring universe to the land of build tools. And up next is Develocity. Anton, what is Develocity and what happened in that universe?
All right. So Develocity is a service by Gradle Inc. And they describe it as a developer productivity platform, but we are going to look at it from the build tool perspective for profiling your builds. So
who doesn't like profiling their builds? Yeah, right.
Yeah, who doesn't like profiling builds? So our team actually did quite a lot of foundational work to enable what we are going to see next. And based on that work, folks from Gradle were able to develop the new plugin. So to demonstrate this, I have a multi-module Gradle project that I have generated basically for myself. And it consists of 8 different modules. So when I run the build for it, let me run the build. It actually was too quick. Let me rerun it again. So no need
to profile it then?
Yeah, like
that never happens. It never happens in real life. The build was too quick.
Yeah.
So I get a visualization of how the different submodules of my project are built. Right? Sometimes I can detect that everything is built sequentially, and maybe this is not exactly what I anticipated. So I can reevaluate how the dependencies are structured in my project, and maybe let me roll back the changes that I artificially introduced into the project in order to show that the build was happening sequentially. So if I roll it back and I clean the build from the previous time, and after cleaning it, I will rebuild it again to get a new visualization of that process. It's interesting that cleaning the build takes longer than building it. But okay, so I'm running the build now. And by switching to the timeline tab under the build process, I can see, first of all, the utilization of the CPU, but also the timeline of how the different modules are built. And I can see that more modules are now built in parallel concurrently. And of course, there are some interesting visual elements that with indicators, if the results of the build were cached, are they not worth caching, and so on. So these new visual elements were introduced by our platform team, and Gradle team was building on top of that this new version of the plugin. And currently, this plugin runs locally, so it doesn't really send the data to the service, because Develocity is the productivity platform, and it's a service. What I don't get from the local version is the comparison between the different versions of my build, so I cannot really compare them. If I need to compare them, then I have to get the account on that platform, send the data there, and I will get the visualization and comparisons of the different versions of the build. So it's a
So if you want to track it over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a neat plugin locally to get some value and to get some idea of how your build is structured, and does it even perform well enough. And then for monitoring your builds, you will connect to the Develocity platform and have the history of all the builds right there.
Does it support Maven as well?
Right. That's a great question. So currently the first version is supporting Gradle, and Maven support is coming up.
Cool.
Brilliant. Then let's jump over to Kubernetes. Kubernetes can be a lot, and we're trying to help you navigate, Kubernetes YAML files so you don't get lost along the way. Anton, what have we got for our Kubernetes users?
We have added a very minor update that will make a big difference, I think. Like a small step for Kubernetes,
but a big step for our users.
Yes.
Let's put it like that.
Exactly. So in the demo, I have here just a simple Spring Boot application, and I have pre-built it. So I have a Docker image already on my machine cached. And in this Kubernetes services view, I can show you that I'm connected to my local Docker environment where the Kubernetes instance is actually running. So if I switch to the, let me switch to the window right here in the Docker desktop. If I go to the tab, you can see that I have a cluster with default namespace running. So my IntelliJ instance is currently connected to that environment, and I can start doing things with this. So if I want to deploy my simple Spring application, it only has a few classes, just an API to access the application, the repository that talks to the database. So yeah, I'm using a Spring JDBC template, my favorite JDBC library for accessing databases. And then I have a service component that just implements some logic. So I have a database. I need to access that database from the application, meaning I need some properties to be propagated, like password, URL, username, and so on. And for this, in Kubernetes, we have secrets. That's a special entity
like one of the many entities.
Components.
Components.
Like, it's huge. Like if you browse whatever you have in Kubernetes, you have pods, you have deployments, you have stateful sets, jobs, replica sets, services, endpoints. So you need to be a very good, well certified engineer to understand all this. But so one of those things is under the configurations we have secrets, and I have already applied the configuration that I have in the YAML file. Of course, creds.yaml. There I have this Postgres user, Postgres password, Postgres database name configured, and it's already stored in my secrets. So when I need to deploy the database image, when it starts, the Postgres image needs those secrets, so they need to be deployed upfront. Then if I open up the configuration file for deploying my Postgres database, it describes the deployment, all in YAML file. And right here, you can already see all the new features, all the small new features that we added in this release. So let's go over them one by one. First of all, there is a floating bar that we had it previously to apply the configuration to the service. But to apply it, you actually need to specify which cluster you want to connect it to and which namespace. And now we extended this floating bar with the selector that you can select the environment, Docker desktop, you can select the namespace. I'm currently keeping at the default. And then the buttons on the right-hand side of the toolbar basically are your friends to deploy or undeploy or delete the configurations from the Kubernetes cluster that you are connected to. So let's apply the database configuration. It's pretty quick. And if I go and check what kind of pods are running, pods are the instances of those services that I want to deploy, I can see that Postgres database pod is already running there. And in the YAML, the next feature basically that we have in this same YAML configuration is the Inlay hint about how many replicas of that pod I'm running right now. So currently there is just a single database. It's only one. There's indicator that all pods are running, all of one pods are running. That's great.
That's exactly the use case Kubernetes was made for.
All of one pod?
Yeah. We will see in the next example, we will see that there is more, and it's more useful in this regards. But remember I was talking about the passwords and the secrets, and in development it's very often that I want to figure out what was the username, what was the password, how do I connect my database, and so on. And now we have the Inlay hints right in the YAML file where I can just click, show me this value of that environment variable that was propagated from the secrets storage, and I can see it right in the editor in this way. And I can, there is an Inlay to copy it as well. So if I need to add it to the configuration file, just the convenience, click on the copy and paste it somewhere else. The next thing, and probably the most useful thing, is when you deploy the database already and it runs in the cluster and you want to connect to it, it runs in its own environment, so to say. So you gotta find out the connection or the connection parameters, how to connect to that database, and one of them is port. So you need to figure out which port is it running. Actually, you know, because it's in the configuration file, but it's the port of the remote environment. And what we added is the ability to quickly do the port forwarding so that you can connect to the remotely running database in that Kubernetes cluster to connect it as if it's local. So if I click on that inlay hint, it brings up the pop-up with port forwarding configuration, and I click forward, and the inlay inside the configuration file changes into connect to database. So now I can just click on that, and I will connect to that database that is running
And that
inside
is really,
Kubernetes.
really nice.
Yes, and I don't have to do anything manual, run some manual commands for port forwarding, create configuration files, and so on. It's just 2 clicks.
I used to maintain a Kubernetes cheat sheet with all the commands.
Yes.
Now it seems IDE is showing all that. You don't need to memorize or maintain that cheat sheets.
I had the cheat sheet so I wouldn't have to memorize because I didn't use it enough to actually remember. Same.
Right. So it's a very small thing that we added, but it makes a huge difference. Just the inlay hints inside the YAML file. One last thing that I want to show in regards to that is when we are actually deploying the application. This is where we say that we want to run multiple instances, not just one, as with the database. For instance, here I have a number of replicas configured to 3. So if I run that, let me apply the configuration to the cluster, I can immediately see that the pods are created. And because my application is small, there is not so much room for failure of the startup of the application. It immediately starts and indicates that all the 3 pods are running. But if there is some kind of an environmental issue, like maybe the application needs to connect somewhere and there are connectivity issues, I will see the transitioning state that some of the pods are up and running, some of the pods are restarting because there are some policies for restarting the pods on failure. And that's also great to see. And you need to access the application. So the same way as with the database, port forwarding works with the services. So I can go to the place where the inlay hints shows me that I can forward the port, forward the remote port 8080 to the local one, and then I can access my application, as if it's local, but runs technically remotely in a Kubernetes cluster, and then run my usual HTTP queries and open it in a browser, just work with the application as usual.
Love it. And our final act, remote development, because the remote development experience inside our IDEs got a lot smoother. Anton, show us what happened.
Right. So remote development. All the demos before now we were showing on the local machines, and now I'm going to try something that runs on the remote machine. And for this, I'm going to navigate to the Toolbox application. That is my first application I install whenever I need to install the JetBrains IDEs, and I have different versions of those installed locally.
They're like Pokemon. You gotta catch them all.
Yeah,
right?
I gotta catch them all. And I even assign custom icons to my projects so that I can find them quickly, and they're all rendered in this nice, awesome Toolbox app. And on the top of this application, when you open it up, there is a drop-down where you can select either you work with local versions of the IDs or you want to connect somewhere remotely. So there's this SSH tab. And I have already connected to the remote machine that runs actually in AWS. And I can add new connections, and they can automatically resolve from my local SSH configuration. So I got access from my to my remote machine by it was given by one of the administrators of that remote machine. And I have connected there. Initially, didn't have any IDs installed. So here I have a selection of different tools that I can install, including, of course, IntelliJ IDEA. And there I have a couple of projects already configured on the remote machine. If I don't have any, I can just open the workbench and, as normal, create a new project or check it out from the version control. And I will try to connect to the remote project that I already had previously pre-configured. It's going to take a little bit depending on your connection. So it currently opens, connecting to remote host, and it opens the thin JetBrains client that looks very much exactly as the normal IDE installation on your local machine. The difference is that on the top left corner, there is a drop-down that opens the pop-up with the information about the remote machine, showing you some indicators about CPU load, memory, disk space, and so on. But there is also some other tabs, and one of them that is the most useful one is the ports tab that I will use for accessing the remote machine from my local machine, and even accessing my local machine from the remote machine.
Anton, I have a question.
Why?
Yes, why?
Exactly.
Why?
So bear with me. It's gonna be interesting. So the application I have right now in the IDE is a Spring Boot project that uses a database. Now, where do you think I am hosting the database?
Well, I already know the answer.
You already know the answer, but the logical answer would have been that it runs remotely. Of course, it's a clean machine. It doesn't run any database remotely, but I have my local database that runs in a local Docker environment. So I want the application that I'm going to start remotely to connect to my local database on my machine.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, because you can, right?
Yeah, because I can. So, but I will also need to connect to the remote application as if it's local. So port forwarding is going to do all this magic for me.
I'm already lost.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's see. So currently I don't have any ports configured. And if I run the application, it will not have the access to the database. It's going to crash. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if it fails actually. So I just run it, and it fails because it did not find the database. Of course, because we have no access to the database from that remote machine to my local machine. Let me fix that.
Probably a good thing that it doesn't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to fix that, and I know that the database runs on the port 5432, and I'm going to configure that in that configuration screen. Let me do that. So the remote port and local port will be the same. And if I restart the application or try running it again, it will find the connection to the database, of course, yes, and accesses it on the remote machine as if it's local to that remote machine, right? But accessing on my local environment. And now when it started, I want to access that remote machine from my local computer as if it's running locally in the browser. And for this, we are actually automatically detecting that some process has started and it is accessible remotely on port 8080, and as in this example. And there is a very nice hint that it can help me to persist this configuration, although the port is forwarded automatically, and I can just go and open my application in the browser as if it's running locally. Let me open the browser. Localhost 8080. No, the port forwarding needs to be persisted. So forward the port, and now switch back to the browser, and the application is accessible. Wow.
Lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm accessing remote application as if it's local, and the remote application accesses the database that runs on my machine. So it goes all directions.
It goes all
bidirectional. Fancy.
Fantastic way to finish.
One more thing. One last thing that the remote development got an update of is that Juni is also working remotely as well. So I have some history of the runs right here. I was adding the mapstruct dependency to my project, and it all run on the remote project, and it ran even the tests. It added the dependency the build succeeded, and it was nice.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Wow.
And that's our tour. So you saw us, we unified things, we themed things, we fixed a lot of things we didn't even show in this video, apart from the bigger stuff like the AI updates, Spring updates, Kubernetes updates. In any case, thank you for sticking with us. Try out the new version of IntelliJ IDEA 2025.3, download it straight away and let us know what you think, also in the comments down below. Thank you very much, Marit, Anton, and Siva for doing these demos. They were fantastic. And we'll see you all next time again. Same IDE, more good features. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A good one.